Good morning to all the viewers. So last session we have discussed it regarding income escaping assessment and stretch assessment. In today's session we are going to discuss the most important provision of Income Tax Act, TDS and TCS. So first let me begin with the TDS procedure and then later enter into the concept of TCS. So beginning with the provisions of TDS, this is the procedure I have specified to you. First thing to be made is deduction of TDS. Here we are going to discuss section 192 to 196 when the TDS has to be deducted. And number 2 regarding no deduction. If form 15G is been submitted, what is the procedure for submitting them in online? We are going to discuss in our today's session. And lower deduction certificate. So now everything is made online, even TDS return, form 15G, 15H, lower deduction certificate, everything now it is being done through online. So what is the procedure for such deduction? And next, after deduction, payment to the government in different challans. ITNS 281 is generally challan we are going to use. Along with that, there are also 3 different challans like 26 QB, QC and QD. What are the circumstances we are going to use those challans? And filing of TDS return. After making of payment, then we are going to file our TDS return, and then our TDS return will get processed, and later we can issue TDS certificates to the deductee. So this is the procedure for TDS. Here we are going to begin with this first point. Actually this is only the very large issue to be discussed in the TDS provisions. So deduction of TDS, section 192 to 196. So let us have a discussion on it. If we see here, there are various sections for applicability of TDS. First beginning with the salary. Sir, what is the TDS rate to be introduced in case of salary? There is no specific TDS rate like 10%, 15% in case of salary. First of all, when employer gives a salary to employee, employee self-assessment should be made by employer, and the tax payable by employee should be deducted by employer by way of TDS. The thing to be kept here in mind is, here TDS at the rate, first calculate the tax payable by employee. First we need to calculate how much employee is liable to pay tax. Such tax is to be deducted by employer by way of TDS. So first we need to compute the tax payable by employee, and that will be deducted by employer by way of TDS. For example, if 6 lakh salary is being paid to employee, how much TDS we need to deduct in this circumstance? So to the extent of 2,50,000, tax is nil. 2.5 to 5 lakhs, 12,500. So 5 to 6 lakhs, 1 lakh 20%, 20,000. So 32,500 plus health and education cess. So this amount has to be deducted by employer. It may not be deducted in first month only, but by the end of 31st March, last month payment of salary, so he has to deduct this amount from the salary. So from first month onwards, divided by 12, it need not be deducted. Even though it was deducted in second quarter or third quarter, in total they have to cover this amount by way of TDS is the conclusion. So finally such tax deducted should be paid by the employer to the government by way of deducting TDS. How much TDS? Whether any percentage has been specified? No, nothing, no percentage has been specified. We have to make self-assessment of employee, and employer has to deduct such amount. While making self-assessment of employee, whether employees' other incomes have to be considered? No, only loss under the head house property should only be considered. Rather than that loss, no other thing should be computed from employee point of view. Only loss under the head house property is required to be considered. And then the employer shall take the above particulars into account while calculating the TDS. What are the particulars he has to obtain is, except loss under the head house property, nothing need to be considered. But generally employees claim HRA as exemption. House rent allowance, they can claim exemption under section 10 subsection 13A generally in case of employees. So in order to get such exemption, they need to submit the PAN of the landlord if rent amount exceeds 1 lakh. So to the employer they need to submit the PAN of the landlord And if leave travel concession is being taken, evidence of expenditure. If interest on housing loan is being claimed, then name, address and PAN of the lender. If you remember, interest under section 24 in case of income from house property is allowed in all the cases. Even though borrowal is made not from banks, the borrowal is made from friend also towards purchase or construction of a house. Interest accrued on payment to the friend can also be claimed as deduction under section 24. House property interest is allowed, the loan is borrowed from any person, whereas principal under ATC is allowed only if the amount has been repaid. But whereas in case of borrowing, it can be borrowed from any person, and interest can be claimed as deduction under section 24. For that purpose, name and PAN of the lender. In case of bank statement is sufficient regarding such housing loan. In any other case, they need to obtain the name, lender, address details and PAN of the lender. And ATC to ATU, if they are going to claim any deductions employee, evidence of investment, LIC, tuition fee, such evidence should be submitted to the employer, and employer taking into while computing the total income, he considers the requirement submitted by employee, and employee tax payable will be computed by the employer. Such employer is going to deduct TDS based on that. So here, a threshold limit, the salary itself does not exceed 2,50,000, then no need to deduct TDS at all. In case of senior citizens 3 lakhs, in case of super senior citizens 5 lakhs, this limited as usual. So coming to the next issue, by this I have discussed section 192 TDS deduction and its procedure. Now before continuation my discussion, first let me clarify some issues regarding applicability of TDS provisions. Coming to next section 192A. Coming to 192A, we are dealing with applicability. First we have completed section 192. Next coming to 192A, premature withdrawal from RPF. Because if we invest in RPF, he must be in employment for 5 years. If a withdrawal was made within 5 years, if withdrawal is made due to illness, there are certain exceptions. Rather than keeping out such exceptions, generally within 5 years, if amount is withdrawn from RPF, in such a case, it is taxable in the hands of the recipient. So generally withdrawal from RPF is exempt under section 10, but premature withdrawal from RPF is taxable if withdrawal is made within 5 years. In such a case, TDS at the rate 10% has to be deducted if withdrawal amount exceeds 50,000. If PAN is not submitted, then MMR will be deducted. So generally PAN has to be submitted in this case. Generally in other cases, if PAN is not submitted, 20% will be deducted. But in case premature withdrawal from RPF, PAN has to be submitted. So this is a discussion regarding premature withdrawal from RPF. From RPF, this RPF concept I have already discussed in day 2 while dealing income chargeable under the head salary. I have given certain exemptions on withdrawal from RPF, SPF, RPF, URPF, PPF. We have discussed on that session. And in this, the thing I am going to conclude here is withdrawal from RPF within 5 years, if it exceeds 50,000, then TDS shall be deducted at the rate 10% is the conclusion. Okay. So next coming to the other thing, section 193, interest on securities. Generally, if debenture interest paid by the company does not exceed 5,000, then there is no concept of TDS. So in all other cases, when a company, private or public company, is going to issue debentures, and at the time of making interest, paying interest, if such interest amount exceeds 5,000, then TDS has to be deducted at the rate 10% is the discussion that was considered here. So the thing I am going to give you conclusion is, in case of a company which pays interest on securities issued like debentures, if it exceeds 5,000, 10% TDS has to be deducted. And there are other exceptions also where TDS need not be made, but these are the government securities. If we invest in NSE bonds, the interest can also be claimed as deduction under ATC. First we need to offer under income under the head other sources, and then it can be claimed as deduction. It can also be treated as investment, NSE bonds. So like that, certain government securities, they do not deduct TDS. What the thing that was specified here is interest on securities. But on certain government securities, TDS will not be deducted at all. So what are those? Here is the list, but that list is not useful in our practical life. But for the purpose of practicality, only this amount is useful. So debenture interest, if it exceeds 5,000, TDS has to be deducted under 193. Now coming to section 194. Sir, what I am going to discuss you now is TDS on payment to residents only. What about TDS on payment to non-residents? Sir, we have a separate discussion on NRA taxation. So there we will discuss the TDS provisions which are applicable to non-residents. Most probably in tomorrow's session only we are going to discuss NRA taxation. There I will give you much more clarification regarding TDS provisions which were applicable to non-residents. But here the thing I am going to discuss here is TDS provisions which were applicable to residents only. Okay. Now in continuation, coming to section 194, before continuation of section 194A, I would like to clarify one thing to you, that applicability, I am going to divide into two categories: 194H, I, J, A and C. 194H regarding commission, 194I rent payable, J professional or technical fees payable, A interest payable, C any other contract payments. These 5 sections, if the deductor is individual or HUF, these 5 sections are to be complied if in last year they were liable to tax audit under section 44AB under clause A or clause B. That means if turnover exceeds 1 crore, and in case of profession if gross receipts exceed 50 lakhs, then TDS has to be deducted under section 194. These sections 194H, I, J, A, C, they will be applicable to individual and HUF only when in the last year he is liable to tax audit. Then in current year the provisions of TDS will get applicable. This is in case of individual and HUF. And in case of other SSEs like companies, partnership firms, for them all sections, always applicable. For these other persons, these provisions were always applicable. Okay. This is the first part regarding 194H to 194C, H, I, J, A, C. Rather than these sections, other sections, like now we have dealt with section 193, 192 salaries, like that. Other sections were applicable for all the SSEs, whether liable to tax audit or not liable to tax audit. All other sections were always applicable to the SSE. Only these 5 sections, 194H, I, J, A, C, only these 5 sections, you can also remember it as a code like HISAC. But this is not exact spelling of HISAC, but for remembrance, I am going to specify to you that 194H, I, J, A, C, these sections were applicable to individual and HUF only in case in last year if they were liable to tax audit under 44A and B. For example, if 80 lakhs is the turnover, if turnover is 80 lakhs and he is going to offer only 5% as profit, in such a case also he is liable for tax audit under 44AB. But this is not considered for the purpose of TDS. For the purpose of TDS, clause A and B is only specified. What do you mean by the term clause A and B? If you refer, the turnover exceeds 1 crore or gross receipts exceed 50 lakhs, and in such case if they are liable to tax audit, then if last year they are liable to tax audit, during the current year the provisions of TDS will get attracted, is the conclusion. So now we are going to begin with 194A. So here if you see applicability column, this is applicability column. In this applicability column, for individual and HUF, if in preceding financial year they were liable to audit under 44AB clause A and B, then only now 194A will get attracted. How much TDS is required to be deducted here? 10%. Is there any exemption limit? Yes. Generally now banks, in case of senior citizens, up to 50,000 of interest, they are not going to deduct TDS. In excess of 50,000 interest only, they are going to deduct TDS. And if bank pays interest to me, so in case of other than senior citizens, if bank pays interest to me, if interest exceeds 40,000, then they are going to deduct TDS under 194A. And other bank accounts like savings interest, current account, generally they do not pay interest. So savings and current account, no TDS is required. Only on time deposits like recurring deposit, fixed deposit, only on time deposits the provisions of TDS will get attracted. And any other interest, if I pay interest to my friend, if I have borrowed loan from my friend for the purpose of using in business, if I have borrowed unsecured loan, on such unsecured loan interest, if the interest amount exceeds 5,000, if the interest amount exceeds 5,000, then TDS has to be deducted. If the interest amount has exceeded 5,000, TDS amount has to be deducted. So unsecured loans interest limit is 5,000 only. Bank if pays interest to me, sir, if I pay interest to bank, TDS need not be deducted. In further provisions, we are going to discuss here that when I pay interest to banking companies, finance corporations, LICs, so we need not deduct TDS while paying interest to the bank. But if bank pays interest to me and if it exceeds 40,000, they will deduct TDS. For senior citizens, if it exceeds 50,000, they will deduct TDS. In any other case, if it exceeds 5,000, then TDS has to be deducted. Okay. Next, here for other SCs, this section is always applicable. So now coming to exceptions, partnership firm partners interest is allowable to the extent of 12% per annum, which we have discussed in section 40 subsection BA in assessment of partnership firms. This interest TDS provisions were not applicable on interest paid or created by a firm to any of its partners. In the same way, if cooperative society pays interest to its members, then also the provisions of TDS will not get attracted. So cooperative society, if it pays interest to any of the members, or one cooperative society paying interest to another cooperative society, then the provisions of TDS will not get attracted. And interest credited or paid in PACS, primary agricultural credit societies, which offer agricultural loans, on such interest also TDS provisions were not applicable. And if government refunds any of the taxes, if income tax, the department is going to pay interest, even though such interest amount exceeds 5,000, now the department is not going to deduct TDS on it. On any refund of taxes, if government is going to pay interest, even in GST also, 6% interest shall be added at the time of refund and will be paid to us. So in such a case, whether if such interest exceeds 5,000, the government is going to deduct TDS. Answer is no. Interest or income on amount created or paid by government, these are all the exceptions where TDS need not be deducted. So that's what the conclusion we are going to get here. And next, the same thing, if the fixed deposit is in dispute, if a fixed deposit is in dispute, so the Registrar General of Court is going to hand over the dispute as of now until the ownership is been cleared. Till that time, TDS need not be deducted on that fixed deposit interest. Generally, unless the owner has been known, we cannot deduct TDS and it cannot be reflected in Form 26AS. For this purpose, the fixed deposit in dispute, TDS shall not be deducted until the dispute has been solved, is been clarified in the circular. And interest in relation to zero coupon bond interest also, generally at the time of its redemption, the difference of face value and issue price is the benefit to the investor, and on such benefit TDS will not be deducted on zero coupon bonds is the conclusion. Okay. And next, coming to next section. So now we have discussed section 194A. Before in continuation of 194B, BB like these sections, first let me clarify once again applicability. 194HIJAC is applicable only when in last year he is liable for tax audit, then only in current year the provisions of TDS will get attracted. So in continuation of my discussion, here certain queries which were raised as of now, because unless these queries were solved, further sections cannot be understood. So first let me solve the queries that were raised here. PAN number of owner need to be taken when rent exceeds 1 lakh per month or per year. Okay, that limit of 1 lakh is per annum. That amount of 1 lakh per month is per annum. So that means monthly rent around if it exceeds 8,333 rupees average, in average if you consider, then PAN of the landlord is to be submitted. Okay. And next thing is salary income up to 5 lakhs, whether rebate under 87A to be considered. Yes, while computing salary income, if the salary itself has not exceeded 5 lakhs, then rebate under 87A can be considered. So TDS need not be deducted if the salary amount itself is below 5 lakhs. Salary, perquisites, allowances, everything you have to include. Based on that only TDS provisions will get attracted. Next, if listed company pays debenture interest, whether TDS is to be deducted? No need. So listed securities, there are no provisions of TDS. TDS attracts only in case of unlisted securities. So if you refer here, so on debentures issued by listed companies, there is no concept of TDS. Only in case of unlisted companies, debenture interest exceeds 5,000, they are going to deduct TDS. Okay. And next thing is, if in the last year individual proprietor paid tax on presumed to scheme at the rate 8%, but turnover has exceeded 1 crore, whether in next year TDS liability arises. Okay, sir. For example, if your turnover is 1.5 crores during the last year, but you have opted 44 AD and paid 8%, that means you are not liable to tax audit in the last year, and hence during the current year you are not liable for section 194H, I, J, A and C. So only if you are getting your books of account audited by a chartered accountant under 44 AB, then only the provisions of TDS will get attracted. Okay. Next, coming to the other thing, is interest payable on RD subject to TDS? Yes. If the RD interest exceeds 40,000, RD, FD, all other accounts which were maintained by you in a bank, entire interest, if it exceeds 40,000 in case of normal persons, 50,000 in case of senior citizens, then TDS will be deducted. Okay. Next, consequence of non-deduction. If SSC opt to 44 AD with a turnover of 2 crores. Sir, up to from 1 to 2 crores, individual and HUF has two options. They can either offer tax audit or they can offer income at the rate 8% of the turnover. If they have considered 8% of the turnover, next year the liability of TDS will not get attracted, because the terminology that was used in section is 44AB. But if you had opted 44 AD, in such a case it is not applicable. Okay. And for NRI SSC, why TDS at the rate 30% deducted on interest on income tax refund? Sir, one thing I have clarified to you, that in case of interest payments to residents only, the thing today I am going to discuss you is, if deductee is a resident, but if deductee is a non-resident, in tomorrow's session I am going to discuss TDS provisions and special tax rates which were applicable to non-resident of India. So tomorrow let us have a discussion on that topic, but present I am going to discuss only resident taxation. But coming to this query, NRI interest will be liable for TDS. Will be liable for TDS, because there we are going to attract 195. In 195 section this exception does not exist, so TDS will be deducted on payment to non-residents. Next, 15G, 15H received but not submitted or uploaded. What is the TDS provisions? Okay, 15G received but not submitted or uploaded. Okay, sir, I will specify you procedure also today regarding submission of form 15G and form 15H. And if you have not submitted within 7 days to the jurisdictional income tax officer, in such a case, you are liable to deduct TDS. If you have not deducted the TDS, in such a case, 30% of your expenditure will get automatically disallowed. So this is a process. Failure to submit means you are liable to deduct TDS indirectly. So in such a case, expenditure might be disallowed. Next, rent agreement required for HRA. Rent agreement is not the criteria. PAN number, details of landlord has to be obtained. Rent agreement is not the criteria. Next, sir, please explain government employee salary TDS. Same provision, sir. Even for government and non-government, if the salary amount exceeds 5 lakhs, TDS will get deducted, because below 5 lakhs, the concept of rebate under 87A is applicable. So above 5 lakhs, TDS provisions will get applicable. What is the procedure in case of payment of TDS for government employees? I will discuss in today only in further topics. Next, whether TDS is to be deducted on interest portion of EMI paid to NBFCs. Sir, on all the finance institutions, if we are going to make payment under 194A, here if you refer exceptions in 194A, the thing that was specified here is only banking companies, financial corporations, LIC, companies carrying on insurance companies, UTI, like this only they were specified. NBFCs, Manappuram Gold Loan, Muthoot Finance, Sundaram Finance, Bajaj Finance, if you obtain business loans from them and interest is being paid to them, on such interest, deduction of TDS under 194A is mandatory. If you are liable for tax audit, then in such a case 194A will get attracted. If you are not going to deduct, 30% of the expenditure will be disallowed. Okay, even for NBFC interest also TDS provisions will get attracted. Next, salary, director salary 10 lakhs, interest on director's loan 30 lakhs, same company TDS. Okay sir, actually while considering TDS under head salaries, while making salary to the employee, other income of employee need not be considered by the employer. You may consider, actually if you know other incomes of employee, you consider such other income also and make TDS. If you do not know other income of employee, in such a case you are not liable to obtain the information regarding other income. Here only salary and loss under house property, ATC to ATU deductions, this information is only to obtained from the employee. So you need not deduct TDS on other incomes of employees. Only on the salary income we are liable to deduct TDS. It is at your discretion that you may include other incomes also. Next, secured debentures, unsecured debentures. So both the cases, sir, whatever may be, if debenture interest exceeds 5,000, TDS has to be deducted. Is the provisions of TDS changed now in the latest budget? If turnover exceeds 1 crore, TDS has to be deducted. Sir, 1 crore exceeding TDS has to be deducted. That's what I have clarified you. 194H, I, J, A, C only, we have to check the limits. Sir, 193 for bond interest limit is 10,000, right? Sir, present budget it may be increased, but I am going to speak based on Finance Act 2019. And last 2 days back also, Finance Minister has announced that 25% TDS rate will be reduced. That reduced rate we are not going to discuss now. As of now, we are going to have a discussion regarding Finance Act 2019 provisions only. Next, sir, we are receiving intimation in case we claim rebate under 87A where net income was below 2. Okay, you have to submit rectification request. Okay. What about interest paid to car dealer from whom loan is taken? It may be car dealer or any person, sir. If you are going to claim interest as an expenditure in your P&L account and if you are liable for tax audit, TDS has to be deducted. If SSC can prove that where no TDS made but party has filed the return, there is no loss of revenue. Let me discuss it in today's session at later point of view, sir. Even though deductor has not deducted TDS, but deductee has offered it as income and paid his own self-assessment tax, since there is no loss of revenue on part of deductor, SSC will not be treated as default. There is an exception. So let me discuss today only at later point of time regarding this. Next, processing fees for loan under 194A. No sir, processing fee does not come under 194A. So for bank payments, I will also show you one circular where any bank guarantee commission processing fee is being paid to bank. We need not deduct TDS on making payment to banking companies. Okay. Next, so by this all the queries that were raised were solved. Calculate on pension on salary. Even on pension also TDS provisions will get attracted. Is employee liable to check genuinity of the house rent? Employee or employer, sir? If in case employer has to obtain the rent payment receipts from the employee, based on that only they are going to give HRA exemption. Not straight away the rent paid cannot be claimed. They have to submit the expenditure proofs. Okay. So by this, as of now, the queries that were raised were being solved. Now let me continue my discussion, because TDS being a practical issue, many doubts might be arised to all the viewers. I will solve all the queries regarding that, but in a phased manner. So let me continue my discussion now. Coming to section 194B and BB, winning from lotteries and winning from horse races, which is a casual income. If it exceeds 10,000, then TDS has to be deducted at the rate 30%. even though the lottery is being paid by way of kind. For example, if in a lucky draw, if I have won a car which value is 10 lakhs, whether TDS at the rate 30% will be deducted. Yes. Sir, how they are going to deduct? On the value of car 10 lakhs, 30% TDS has to be deducted. So finally, even though winnings were in kind also, 30% TDS will get attracted. Even in TV shows also, if you refer, if in TV context, if they are going to win, there they are going to make full payment. That was on screen only. But whenever off the screen, they will take back the amount and deduct 30% TDS on all the entertainment show, TV contest. Even it may be a Kaun Banega Crorepati also. They were also a casual incomes. Every entertainment shows, every TV contest shall be treated as casual income, where 30% will be deducted. And the thing to be noticed here is they will deduct only 30%. But we, at the time of filing our return of income, we need to pay health and education cess at the rate 4%. Because they deduct only 30%, but actually we need to pay health and education cess on such amount at the rate 4%. 30 into 4% means around 1.2% need to be paid by us at the time of filing return of income. They do not deduct health and education cess. They only deduct 30% TDS. We have to pay health and education cess at the time of filing our return of income. So I think by this 194B and BB were completed. Next, coming to 194C. This is very, very useful aspect. And 194C is the residual section also. Rent we have 194I, interest we have 194A, commission we have 194H, courier charges no separate section, advertisement charges no separate section. So for all these cases there is a section called 194C. So 194C is a general section, but it will not get attracted for contract of sale. This 194C attracts only for contract of service. Sir, if printing and stationery is being purchased for 40,000, whether TDS is required to be deducted on such 40,000? Answer is no, because printing and stationery is a good. Whether advertisement charges of 40,000 is being paid, whether TDS should be deducted under 194C? Yes, because it is a service. Only on contract of services, this 194C will get attracted. On contract of sale, this 194C will not get attracted. In a simple way, on goods, there are no provisions of TDS. Only on the services, TDS provisions will get attracted. Sir, what about works contract? You might raise the query. In works contract, there will exist both goods and services. If they are going to separate goods value and service value, TDS we are going to deduct only on service value. But if they are not going to separate goods and service value, then on entire amount, TDS will get deducted in case of works contract. So let me show here. Here in 194C, work means advertising, broadcasting, carriage of goods, passengers other than railways. Because on payment to government, if we make any payment to government, TDS need not be deducted. If you remember, 196, there is a section called 196. On payment to government, TDS need not be deducted. So other than railways. So catering services. Sir, if you refer here, manufacturing of a product based on material supplied by customer. For example, if for the purpose of New Year, I need to distribute diaries. In market, I have purchased 1000 diaries and I have sent it to a printing press and specified them that you need to print my name on such diary. Sir, here I have purchased diaries in the market and handed it to the printing press. In this case, the material is being supplied by customer. What the printing press is going to do is just to print the name on such diary. Whether it is a sale or a service, this is nothing but a service. On the material supplied by customer, if they are going to make an activity, it shall be regarded as service but not a sale. Because 194C will attract only on services but not on the sale of goods. So based on that only I am going to give you conclusion. And 194C, if you remember, 194HIJAC, this is the C. So for individual and HUF, only if in last year they are liable for tax audit, then the provisions of TDS will get attracted. For all other SSCs, this is always applicable. And for government and local authorities, on payment to government and local authorities, so TDS provisions, government also at the time of making payment, if government makes any payment towards advertisement services, government will deduct TDS. So government will have TAN number. Based on such TAN, government is going to deduct TDS. Okay. Next, on payment to individual, that means contractor or deductee. The person to whom we are going to make payment, if he is an individual, then TDS at the rate 1% has to be deducted. If he is an HUF also, 1% need to be deducted. In any other case, 2% TDS has to be deducted. When single payment exceeds 30,000 or when aggregate payment exceeds 1 lakh. Sir, each payment to be considered as 30,000 and aggregate payment to be considered as 1 lakh. So based on that, we have to consider whether 194C attracts or not. In case of works contract, whether 194C will get attracted. Sir, if material component shown separately, then TDS will be deducted on service portion only. But if material portion is not shown, then TDS will be deducted on entire contract value is the conclusion. Okay. Next, regarding broadcasters and television channels, when a new program is to be telecasted in a channel, then upon payment to the channel, 194C TDS has to be deducted in case of new specifications. But if content already produced, actually a serial is being telecasted in one channel, but now another channel is going to purchase it and they are going to retelecast it. Already original specifications 194C, if they are going to retelecast it, then it shall amount to payment towards royalty, where TDS has to be deducted under 194J. So based on purpose, it will differ. And this is useful to all the persons, sir, to students, chartered accountants practice, to every person this is useful. Regarding whether freight will attract TDS is the question that is being arised here. If freight payment, each payment exceeds 30,000 and aggregate in a year, if we are going to make a payment to a person in excess of 1 lakh, then TDS has to be deducted. But the exception here is if they give declaration that they have less than 10 carriages, that means if they are going to opt section 44AE, if to whom we are going to pay freight, such person is going to opt to 44AE. Sir, how we are going to know that transporter opts 44AE? We need to obtain a declaration in form 15J. From the transporter, if we obtain a declaration in form number 15J, then what they are going to do is they will not deduct, we are not going to deduct TDS upon payment to them. What is the meaning of this 15J? So this 15J meaning is they are going to give a declaration, transporter is going to give a declaration that number of vehicles with him do not exceed 10. That means he is going to offer income under section 44AE. So since I am going to offer income under 44AE, you need not deduct TDS on me, is the declaration which is being specified in form 15G. If this is taken from the transporter, then upon payment of rent to the transporter, TDS need not be deducted, is the conclusion. Okay. So by this we have completed this point number 6 also. So 194C got completed. Next, coming to other section, 194D. So this is regarding insurance commission. This is regarding insurance commission. Generally, insurance companies, while making insurance commission payment to its agents, they are going to deduct TDS at the rate 5%. If insurance commission exceeds 15,000, they will deduct TDS under 194D at the rate 5%. Next, coming to 194DA. Sir, life insurance policy upon its maturity, if we are going to deposit, I have discussed this aspect in a deductions chapter, exemption under section 1010D. If we are going to contribute within the limits of 10% of sum assured, 20% of sum assured, 15% of sum assured. Policy taken before 1/4/2012, 10% of sum assured, 20% of sum assured is the maximum deduction. Policy taken on or after 1/4/2012, 10% of sum assured can be claimed as deduction under ATC. With effect from 1/4/2013, for handicapped persons, 15% can be claimed as deduction under ATC. So if you contribute within these limits, in future, upon maturity of the policy or upon incurrence of risk, any bonus amount is being paid, such bonus is also exempt under section 1010D. So such bonus is not taxable. Such bonus is exempt under section 1010D. Okay. So here coming into the discussion, if you contribute in excess of 20% of sum assured on a policy taken before 1/4/2012, future upon maturity, if it exceeds 1 lakh, below 1 lakh no TDS. If it exceeds 1 lakh, then TDS at the rate 5% will get deducted. Earlier 1% only, but in Finance Act 2 with effect from 1/9/2000, with effect from 1/9/2019, earlier TDS at the rate 1%, but now it has been increased to 5% is the conclusion. So the thing I am going to consider here is, in case of life insurance policy, upon its maturity, if the payment exceeds 1 lakh, then TDS is going to get deducted at the rate 5% is the conclusion. Okay. So now coming to next aspect, lottery commission. Sir, I think this provision is very clear. Here in other sources, entire maturity receipts need not be offered as income. Only bonus amount will be liable to tax. Only such amount is to be considered in this case. Next, coming to other aspects, commission on lottery tickets. Lottery commission, if it exceeds 15,000, then TDS is going to get deducted under 194G at the rate 5%. Same like insurance commission, if it exceeds 15,000, 5% TDS. Here also if it exceeds 15,000, 5% TDS. But here the section that was used is 194G. Okay. Next, coming to the other thing, 194H, general commission. When any commission has been debited to P&L account, sir, 194H, we have this in code 194HIJAC. 194H, that means for individual or HCF this is applicable only in last year if they are liable to tax audit. Before beginning my discussion, I have clarified you these 5 sections that they were applicable only if in last year, if they were liable to tax audit, then only during current year they are going to deduct TDS. Okay. So TDS at the rate 5% if commission exceeds 15,000. But if a BSNL, MTNL is going to pay commission to its agent, then TDS has not been specified to them. So in the same way, if we are going to make payment to advertising agency, generally in certain cases we cannot advertise directly. For example, I cannot directly advertise in bus stand. I cannot directly advertise in railway stations. In railway stations or bus stand, if we need to advertise, we need to consult advertising agency. We make payment to advertising agency and they make payment to government authorities. In this case, even though we are making payment to advertising agent, direct we are not going to make payment to the government. We are going to make payment to advertising agency. Even though in this case payment is made to agency, TDS will be deducted under 194C only, but not under 194H. If I make direct payment to government and government makes commission to such agent, then government deducts under 194H. Both were different aspects. If I make payment directly to advertising agent, I have to deduct TDS under 194C. But if I make directly payment to government section 196, we should not deduct TDS. And government is going to pay commission to such advertising agent, where government will deduct TDS under 194H. Okay. Next, purchase of securities for stockbrokers, shares, derivatives like this. If we are going to purchase and sell securities, in such case on stockbroker commission we need not deduct TDS. But commodity broker is different. On certain commodity, so coming back to our discussion on 194C regarding payment to commission agents, section 194H. So the thing that was specified here is, so I think now audio and video is completely visible to all the viewers. Now in continuation of our session, section 194H, when commission or brokerage is being paid for individual or HUF, in case, sir, this 194H shall be attracted if in last year SSE is liable for tax audit, then during the current year upon payment he is going to deduct under section 194H. So stockbroker commission need not be deducted TDS under 194H. So stockbroker commission is an exception where TDS need not be deducted. So now in continuation of our discussion, very important aspect 194I, rent. If rent is being paid in excess of 2,40,000, earlier in last year the limit is 1,80,000, but in Finance Act 1 itself they have exceeded the limit to 2,40,000. So if rent payment exceeds 2,40,000, then TDS has to be deducted. Rent payment towards plant and machinery, TDS at the rate 2%. Any other rent, TDS at the rate 10%. And real estate investment trust, I have discussed in business trust in one of our technical discussion, where 10% TDS has to be deducted, and upon payment to non-residents 5% TDS has to be deducted. There I have made a discussion in business trust regarding this issue. In all other cases, generally if rent exceeds 2,40,000, then TDS at the rate 2% will be deducted. Any other rent, TDS at the rate 10%. If there are co-owners, this 2,40,000 is to be considered for each co-owner. For example, if I am going to pay rent of 4 lakhs, where 2 owners were there, 2 lakhs to one owner and 2 lakhs to another owner. Even though building rent is made for entire premises, now the limit of 2.4 lakhs is to be considered for each co-owner. If each co-owner limit 2.4 lakhs is not going to exceed, then TDS need not be deducted. Okay. In the same way, no TDS on GST. In rent amount, the landlord is also going to charge GST. Now practically business rent is liable to GST also. So the GST amount we need not deduct TDS. If rent amount is, let me take an example, per month 1 lakh and GST 18%, 18,000 is been collected. On which amount we are liable to deduct TDS? On this 1 lakh amount only. On GST amount, TDS need not be deducted. And no TDS on lump sum lease premium paid for long term lease. For long term lease, if we are going to make lump sum payment, then also TDS need not be deducted. Okay. And this is a very different aspect in case of air transport operator. On passenger service fee, there is no TDS. It is not useful for us. It may be useful for government. And by this 194I is being clarified. If rent amount exceeds 2,40,000, then TDS is to be deducted at the rate 2% in case of plant and machinery, and building, furniture, whatever may be, and all these elements, TDS at the rate 10% will get attracted. Okay. Next, sir, if you remember, 194I is in our HISAC code, and hence this section is applicable only if in last year he is liable for tax audit in case of individual and HUF. Then in current year, these provisions of TDS will get attracted. And next, coming to 194IA, transfer of immovable property. Sir, immovable property may be a land, building, whatever may be. If immovable property value exceeds 50 lakhs, then TDS at the rate 1% has to be deducted. Except on agricultural land. On agricultural land sale, if it exceeds 50 lakhs, 1% TDS need not be deducted. On any other case, it may be an apartment, it may be a building, it may be a land, whatever may be. In any other case, upon payment of a rent amount, TDS at the rate 1% has to be deducted. On any other payment, TDS at the rate 1% has to be deducted under section 194IA. Okay. And no TDS on transfer of immovable property being agricultural land. This we have already discussed. And next thing to be kept in mind here is 194IB. This is residential house rent or any function hall rent. Like this, any rent which we are not going to claim deduction in under head PGBP. Any rent which is not going to get claimed deduction under head PGBP. That means section 30 rent Generally, rent paid towards building can be claimed as deduction if it was used for building. But here, residential rent or function halls rent, like this, if you are going to make rent towards for personal use, in such a case, if rent amount exceeds 50,000 a month, 5% TDS has to be deducted. If house rent of 60,000 per month is being paid, then TDS under section 194 IB at the rate 5% has to be deducted is the conclusion. So deduction 194 IB is on other than business rents, that means residential rents, personal functions if you are going to conduct, if you are making any payment to such function halls towards rent amount, on that rent amount under section 194 IB, TDS at the rate 5% will get attracted. And 194 IC, under joint development agreement, if builder, that means promoter, pays any amount to landlord, builder, that means promoter, makes any payment to landlord, he is going to deduct TDS under 194 IC at the rate 10%. Sir, I have already discussed this under the head capital gains regarding this joint development agreement. One of the special case I have discussed based on stamp duty value, they need to offer capital gain, that I have discussed it there. But here, regarding the provisions of TDS, what they have presented here is, in case of joint development agreement, where any consideration is paid, any monetary payment is made. For example, in case of a contract, in total 100 flats will be constructed, 60 flats to landowner, 40 flats to builder. Along with these 60 flats, 10 lakhs monetary payment is made by builder to landowner. On this monetary payment, TDS at the rate 10% will get attracted is the conclusion. Okay. Now, in continuation of our discussion, 194J regarding professional fees. So here 194J is in our code HIJAC. In this code we have learned that for individuals and HUF, last year if they were liable for tax audit, then current year provisions of TDS will get attracted. If professional fees payment exceeds 30,000, 10% TDS has to be deducted. And this limit of 30,000 is for each professional service. For this professional service 30, technical services 30,000 limit. Payment to a director other than 192. Sir, director sitting fees or director's remuneration, if he is an employee, then we are going to deduct TDS under 192. If he is acting as an non-executive director, then TDS has to be deducted under 194J. Even though 2,000 rupees is paid, TDS has to be deducted. There is no limit for payment to a director. The limit of 30,000 is for professional services, technical services, royalty and non-compete fee. Rather than this, on no other item, that means on director's remuneration being paid, the limit of 30,000 need not be considered. That means TDS has to be deducted in this case is the conclusion. Next, call centers. Call centers are going to deduct TDS at the rate 2%. Very rare case which is not useful to all the people. Professionals means as per section 44 AA, chartered accountants, lawyers, doctors. These are all the persons who were considered as professionals. Teaching, sculpture making, painting, etc. Unless they are notified, they should not be considered as the professionals. And if we are going to purchase a software, sir, software is a good. But if we are going to make tailor-made software, that means if we are going to develop a own software for us, then it shall be regarded as service and TDS has to be deducted under 194J. So if I purchase Tally software, whether I need to deduct TDS under 194J, not required. But when we are required is, if there are any modifications to be made, any customization is to be made, they are going to charge us additional fee, and on such additional fee, TDS is required to be deducted under 194J is the conclusion. So this was regarding 194J. And next 194LA, compulsory acquisition of immobile property by government. Sir, if government is going to make compulsory acquisition other than agricultural land and other than exemptions, I have discussed it in section 96 of Right to Fair Compensation Transparency Land Acquisition Act, where I have discussed that APCRD acquisitions were exempt under section 10 subsection 37A. So government is going to make compulsory acquisition under this section for the purpose of rehabilitation. That compulsory acquisition is fully exempted. Other than that, if any acquisitions were being made, then if the compensation to be received exceeds 2,50,000, then TDS at the rate 10% has to be deducted. Okay, this was regarding section 194 LA. Now we are going to have a discussion on two important sections to all the persons, newly introduced sections 194M and 194N. These two sections were very important. Coming to this, contract payments were earlier covered in 194C. Commission payment is earlier covered in 194H. Fees for professional service is covered in 194J. But if these payments were made for personal purpose, if I am purchasing a property for 50, if I am purchasing a property for 5 crores on which commission at the rate 2%, that means, let us take an example of 20%, so that example will get much more interesting. So 1 crore commission is being paid. Generally on commission we deduct TDS under 194H if it is an expenditure which is to be debited to P&L. But now I am going to specify that if this payment, contract payment, commission payment, professional fees payment, which are made in personal other than 194C, H and J, if we are going to make payment in excess of 50 lakhs, if here I am going to pay commission of 1 crore, then TDS has to be deducted under 194M. In excess of 50 lakhs, TDS at the rate 5% has to be deducted. This was regarding section 194M. Sir, I think this provision is very clear. If it was covered in these three sections, if it is a business expense, it will be covered in 194C, 194H and 194J. And if these three expenses, contract payments, commission payments and professional fees payments, other than business purpose, that means personal usage, and it has to exceed 50 lakhs, then 5% TDS shall be deducted is the conclusion. Okay, this was regarding 194M. And next, coming to section 194N, cash withdrawal. This is the new provision that was introduced in Finance Act 2. If in a year cash withdrawal exceeds 1 crore, if in a year cash withdrawal exceeds 1 crore, then TDS shall be deducted at the rate 2%, which shall be claimed at the time of filing of our return of income. But for all the persons, cash withdrawal TDS will not be made. Here there are certain exceptions. If government withdraws, if a bank withdraws from another bank, business correspondents of bank were going to withdraw and pay to their customers. For the purpose of depositing in ATM, if the bank withdraws, cash replenishment agencies, so ATM operators. So these are all the things which were related to banks and government. If they are going to withdraw, 194N will not get attracted. This is very important aspect in our practice. If we have any agricultural commission agent, if we have any client who has agricultural commission agent, who is an agricultural agent, generally he purchases from the, that means indirectly he purchases from the farmers and sells in the market. And the person who is going to purchase in the market is going to transfer the amount to this commission agent. This commission agent withdraws the cash and pays to the farmers. This is the activity which will be done through agriculture commission agent. Such agriculture commission agent, even though if he withdraws more than 1 crore, bank is not going to deduct TDS. This is an exception to section 194N. Bank is not going to deduct TDS if this payment, even though it exceeds 1 crore. Agriculture commission agent, government and bank, these have been excluded from the provisions of section 194N is the conclusion. So by this we have completed all the provisions where TDS has to be deducted. When this TDS has to be deducted, whether at the time of entry in the books of account or whether at the time of payment is the question. So in these sections 192 salary, 192A premature withdrawal from RPF, 194B and BB, winning from lotteries and casual incomes, 194DA, LIC maturity, 194LA, compulsory acquisition by government, 194M, just now we have discussed that personal payments towards contracts, personal payment towards commission, personal expenses relating to professional fees. If it exceeds 50 lakhs, we need to deduct TDS under 194M, 194N cash withdrawals. These circumstances, when TDS is liable to be deducted, time limit for deducting TDS at the time of making payment to the payee. At the time of making payment to the payee. That means even the accrual entry is written in the books of account, TDS need not be deducted. Only at the time of payment, TDS has to be deducted. For all other sections, at the time of payment or entry in the books of the account, whichever is earlier. If we are making any accrual entry for audit fee payable, 194J TDS will get attracted. Only for these sections at the time of payment. For all other sections at the time of payment or entry in the books of account, whichever is earlier. Okay. Now coming to very important discussion, which is useful to all the persons, all the chartered accountants in practice and also for students. This provision is very useful. No deduction or lower deduction certificates. Whether SSC can voluntarily submit or it has to be obtained from the officer. So complete clarification is being specified here in an easy manner. I am going to give you a complete clarification here. No deduction or lower deduction. Number 1, based on self-declaration. Sir, for these sections, premature withdrawal from RPF, interest on securities, 194A, interest, 194D, insurance commission, 194DA, LIC maturity, 194I, rent also. For all these sections, payee, that means the person who is going to receive the consideration, if he submits 15G and 15H self-declaration basis, if he submits 15G and 15H self-declaration basis, in such a case, we need not deduct TDS, but this self-declaration should be submitted within 7 days from the end of the month. If today I am going to receive that self-declarations in form 15G and H, by next month 7th I need to submit to our jurisdictional office. Online only, we need not go and submit manually. Online only we need to submit. Now form 15G and 15H to be filed online by the payer after receiving manual 15G and 15H. We are going to receive 15G and 15H manually from the payee. And we need to submit these details in online. In Income Tax India e-filing website only, we have to register based on TAN. Generally for the purpose of paying tax payments, for the filing of income tax return, we log in income tax e-filing website based on our PAN. But here, based on TAN, we need to log in and submit this form 15G and 15H details. If you are going to submit these details online in form 15G and 15H details, then only you are not required to deduct TDS. Then no TDS is required to be deducted. If this procedure is not followed, it implies that you are required to deduct TDS. And if you are not going to deduct TDS, then 30% of your expenditure will get disallowed. So finally, this provision has to be interpreted based on this point only. And this form 15G and 15H is not available in all the cases. This 15G and 15H is available only in cases of these sections only. Only in these 6 sections only this is available is the conclusion. So I think this provision is very clear. Now coming to other thing, lower deduction certificate or no deduction certificate to be obtained from AO. Sir, if for other sections we need a lower deduction or no deduction certificate, for all the sections we have discussed except 194N, for cash withdrawal AO is not going to give you any certificate. Section 194N is a mandatory section. For all other sections, they are going to give you lower deduction certificate or no deduction certificate. Who is going to give this certificate? Assessing officer is going to give you lower deduction or no deduction certificate in these cases. But you have to make application in this website, tdscpc.gov.in. In this website, we have to log in as a taxpayer, not based on our TAN. We have to log in based on our PAN. Who has to log in this? Payee has to request payer that not to deduct TDS or deduct lower deduction. In such a case, they need to submit this requirements in form number 13 in tdscpc.gov.in website. They need to register as a taxpayer and submit form number 13. If you register as a taxpayer after login, we have in services column submission of form 13. There you can make an application to assessing officer for lower deduction certificate or no deduction certificate. So now lower deduction and no deduction certificate can be obtained online only. How can we obtain this online? On online only we can submit in tdscpc.gov.in form number 13. Then AO will automatically in online, we need not meet manually to officer also. In online itself, they will generate a certificate and give us certificate number. They give us certificate number, and this certificate number has to be written in our TDS return. In our TDS return, we have to mention this certificate number. For lower deduction or non-deduction, if at the time of filing TDS return, if we mention this certificate number, then CPC is going to verify with the number available in department database. If both were same, then there will be no failure on part of the deductor. Once again, I am going to specify you that it is the responsibility of the deductor to deduct TDS. In order not to deduct TDS, what the deductee is required to do is he need to submit self-declaration form 15G and 15H for these sections. In these sections, if he submit form 15G and 15H, based on that we do not deduct TDS. But for other sections, if he need any lower deduction or no deduction certificate, he need to apply in form number 13. Based on that only, we are not going to deduct TDS and give the benefit to the payee. So I think this provision is clear. This provision is regarding no deduction or lower deduction under section 197 and 197A. In continuation of our discussion, very important aspects are, on these payments TDS need not be deducted at all. TDS will not get attracted on these payments. Number 1, bank guarantee commission. Number 2, cash management service charges, depository charges, warehousing services. Sir, if you see bank guarantee commission, bank if they are going to collect any cash management charges, depository charges, warehousing charges, underwriting commission, clearing charges, credit card, debit card commission, on these payment to be made to banks, TDS need not be deducted. So this is an exception which was specified by way of circular. So TDS need not be deducted in these cases. Okay. Now in continuation of my discussion, section 196. On these payments, TDS need not be deducted when any sum is payable to government or RBI or mutual fund or any corporation established by government. For example, APCRDA is a corporation established by government. LIC is a corporation established by government. So for them, if we are going to make any payments, then what section 196 is going to specify is, you don't deduct TDS on payment to government, RBI and on certain corporations is the conclusion they are going to give to us. And now very important aspects are direct payment. If you are not going to deduct TDS and make direct payment to the deductee, to the payee, in such a case, even though deductor is not going to deduct TDS, but deductee is going to offer it as income. Let me show you here. Even though TDS is not deducted, but if SSC shall not be deemed to be SSC in default, expenditure shall be allowed when 3 conditions were satisfied. The thing to be noticed here is, sir, once again, sir, this is very important aspect for all the chartered accountants in practice. When on any expenditure, TDS has not been deducted, then generally 30% or 100% of the expenditure we are going to disallow based on the sections. But on these cases, if deductor is not going to deduct TDS, but deductee is going to file his return of income taking into account such income also, and he has paid self-assessment tax, and we need to obtain a certificate from payee chartered accountant in form number 26A. So even though deductor is not going to deduct TDS, but deductee shown it as income, filed his return of income and submitted form 26A, then deductor can claim it as expense. Disallowance shall not be made. But the thing to be noticed here is, current year it will be disallowed and next year it will be allowed if they submit form 26A, because here it shall be deemed that tax is deducted and paid on the date of filing return of income. On the date of filing return of income itself, it shall be deemed that tax has been deducted in next year. So if any TDS has not been deducted, but deductee is going to offer it as income, what the deductor is required to do is disallow the expenditure in the current year and allow it in the next year if form 26A is being submitted from a chartered accountant. So very important aspect, sir, to all the practice members. So practicing CS, sir, if TDS is not being deducted, generally expenditure will be disallowed. But if deductor is not going to deduct TDS, but deductee has shown it as income, then in such a case also expenditure can be allowed, but disallowed in current year and allowed in next year. That's what the conclusion I am going to give here. So next, in continuation of my discussion, we have completed the direct payment. Once again I will show it to you. Direct payment. In any case, income is not required to be deducted. Income is liable to be deducted in view of provisions of section 191. Proceedings of recovery for tax had to be taken against the assessee. However, assessee himself has paid the tax, this provision will not apply. That means if deductee paid the tax, then they cannot recover it from the deductor, is the conclusion. Now in continuation, sir, very important aspect. Generally, all the taxes deducted will be reflected in 26As. All the transactions which were presented in 26As should be compulsorily offered as income of the assessee, except 194N. Except 194N, because this 194N is the cash withdrawal. If any TDS has been deducted under 194N, it need not be treated as the income of the assessee, because this is a TDS on the cash withdrawal but not on the turnover. Okay. So if you interpret this section, generally all the sums on which TDS is deducted shall be deemed to be income received. All the sums on which TDS is deducted shall be deemed to be income received. But the exception that was specified here is 194N. In case of cash withdrawal, TDS need not be deducted, is the conclusion that was arrived here. Okay. So all the TDS deducted will be reflected in 26As. They can claim it at the time of filing their return of income. So now coming to the payment of TDS. Sir, generally based on TAN number we are going to make the payment of TDS. But in these three sections, 194A, sale of immovable property greater than 50 lakhs, rent to payment greater than 50,000 per month, and contract payments, commission payment, professional fees payment, 194M for personal use greater than 50 lakhs. In these three cases, these are the personal expenses where the taxpayer need not obtain TAN. Generally, we need to obtain TAN and pay TDS in form number ITNS. ITNS abbreviation, Income Tax National Security. NSDL website, sir. We are going to pay in form number 281 the tax payment. And in case of salary, we are going to file 24Q. And in case of other than salary, we are going to file 26Q. And later TDS certificate in form 16A. So this is the general procedure to be followed, filing in form 2426Q. First we will pay challan based on TAN, and after payment of challan we are going to file TDS return showing the details of each deductee. But in these three sections, the taxpayer generally do not have TAN. For that purpose, challan cum statement based on PAN is enough. Without TAN, based on PAN itself, we can remit the TDS in these three sections. In 194 IA, 194 IB and 194 M. These are generally 194 IA, building which is being purchased. If I am going to purchase a building for 90 lakhs, if I do not have TAN, then how 1% TDS I am going to pay to the government? Since immobile property value exceeds 50 lakhs, 1% TDS has to be deducted. And in this case, this 1% TDS has to be remitted in challan cum statement in form 26 QB based on PAN of the transferor and PAN of the transferee. Without TAN, this is the challan and this is the TDS written also. Generally, form 24Q, 26Q, we are going to make payment based on TAN and then later file TDS returns also based on our TAN number and each deductee PAN number. But in these three sections, challan cum statement in form 26 QB, QC, QD has been suggested and TDS certificates in form 16B, 16C, 16D has been suggested. Generally, when we are going to file TDS return, quarterly basis we are going to file TDS returns. These are the due dates. Of course, now this due date has been extended to 30th June due to COVID situation. It is a very rare circumstance, but generally we are going to discuss the normal time limits. Generally, this is the normal time limit in case of deduction. But the thing that was specified here is, in these three cases, we are going to deposit based on our PAN number. So, from the end of the month, next month, within 30 days, we need to remit it. Here, challan payment and TDS return both were one and the same. In these forms, both challan payment and TDS return both were one and the same. Generally, what we are going to do is, March month TDS we will deposit on 30th April. In any other months, we will deposit before 7th. But here, in these cases, what the thing that has been suggested is, within 30 days from the end of the month in which TDS is made, for these three forms are applicable for 194 IA, IB and 194 M. Okay. So, this is the provision, sir. Generally, based on TAN we are going to pay, but for these sections, without TAN also, TDS shall be remitted. Okay. And after filing TDS return, it will get processed. In process, if there are any arithmetical errors, intimation will be issued under section 200 subsection 1. Whether any late fee, 200 per day late fee will be levied. If TDS return has not been submitted within these due dates, then they are going to levy late fee along with interest also. If late remittance has been made, interest shall also be levied. An intimation shall be prepared. Generally, 1 year time limit has been given, but department is not going to wait up to such time. Generally, maximum within 4 days, the TDS return will get processed and intimation shall be issued if any late fee is payable. So, sir, initially one of our viewer has made a question regarding this. What are the consequences of failure to deduct TDS? If we are not going to deduct TDS, first aspect is disallowance of expenditure. How much shall be disallowed? 30% disallowance on payment to residents, 100% disallowance on payment to non-residents. So, first thing to be noted here is consequences of failure to deduct TDS. First, disallowance of expenditure. Second point, interest liability. Non-deduction interest 1%, non-payment interest 1.5% per month. So, non-deduction 1% per month, non-payment 1.5% per month has been specified here for non-compliance of TDS provisions. Okay. And next, coming to penal provisions, if we are not going to deduct TDS, equal to the amount of TDS penalty will be levied under section 271C. Equal to the amount of TDS penalty will be levied. In the same way, if TCS is not going to get deducted, equal to the amount of TCS penalty will be levied under section 271CA. And next thing is imprisonment. Sir, first aspect disallowance of expenditure. Second aspect interest. Third aspect penal provisions. Fourth aspect, imprisonment will also be levied. So how many years imprisonment will be if we are not going to deduct TDS? 3 months to 7 years plus fine. So imprisonment is a very difficult aspect, because just if we are not going to deduct TDS, whether imprisonment provisions will get attracted? Obviously yes. So 3 months to 7 years imprisonment shall be levied for failure to deduct TDS. So we need to remember here that TDS provisions were mandatorily to be followed. If not, disallowance of expenditure is the first consequence. Interest liability, penal provisions, imprisonment, so everything will come into force for non-compliance of TDS provisions. And late filing of TDS returns, late fee under section 234E, 200 per day or TDS amount whichever is lower shall be considered as the late fee under 234E. Sir, fee is different from penalty. Once again I am going to specify you that fee is different from penalty. Both were different from each other. Penalty under 271H, 10,000 to 1 lakh if not filed within 1 year from the due date of filing return. Sir, generally the thing I am going to specify you that this is for failure to deduct TDS. This is failure to file TDS returns. If TDS returns were not being filed by due dates, late fee shall be levied under section 234E. Late fee shall be levied under 234E, 200 per day or TDS amount whichever is lower. And penalty shall also be levied under 271H, 10,000 to 1 lakh penalty shall be levied if TDS return is filed belatedly after 1 year. No penalty under 271H if filed within 1 year. That means 271H penalty shall be levied after completion of 1 year. If we are going to file late filing of TDS returns, then this penalty under 271H shall be levied. Okay. Next, sir, department whether they can issue notice if we are not going to file TDS return? Yes, they can execute the proceedings within 7 years. Any TDS where the assessee is liable but TDS has not been deducted, within how many years the department is going to take action on him? If TDS return is not filed, within 7 years department can take action. And if TDS return is filed, then within 2 years only for any short deduction or non-deduction department is going to take action. But if TDS return is not filed, they can do for 7 years. 7 years at any time they can issue notices. Okay. Next, this section is only for banks. This section is applicable only for banks. Banks now above 40,000 interest only they are going to deduct TDS. Then what about below 40,000 interest? All those interests where below 40,000 exist, no TDS. But the thing they are required to do is in form number 26 QAA, bank has to submit the deposit details to the income tax department in form number 26 QAA. Sir, this provision is applicable only for banks. Generally banks, if interest payment exceeds 40,000, they are going to deduct TDS under 194A. But if interest payment does not exceed 40,000, bank is going to submit our details in form number 26 QAA, our PAN number and interest amount 30,000, 35,000. This will be reflected in our 26 AS. It should be offered as income, but TDS will not be there. So on items where bank is not going to deduct TDS, those details shall be submitted in form number 26 QAA by the bank. So this is the provision regarding them. And sir, generally if PAN is not quoted, then highest rate of 20% TDS shall be levied. If PAN is not quoted or wrong PAN is quoted, higher TDS shall be deducted. And in case of government, generally we pay challan in form number ITNS 281. TDS payments we remit in 281 challan. But government, instead of paying in ITNS 21, they can make book adjustment in form 24G. Sir, this provision is available only to the government departments or government hospitals, government education institutions, whatever may be. So they shall disclose the challan details in form 24G. Instead of making payment in 281, they can submit in form 24G. Then BSR code challan number will be generated. Based on that, TDS return will be filed by the government. So the simple thing to be noted here is, instead of making payment by government to government, government can make book adjustment by way of form number 24G. Generally we pay in ITNS 281, but banks a special provision has been constituted by way of form number 24G. So by this we have completed our TDS provisions, and now we have to enter for provisions of TCS. Before entering to the provisions of TCS, so let me solve the queries that were raised here as of now, and then I shall enter into the provisions of TCS also. So since this is being a TDS seminar, so many queries were being raised when compared to previous dates. So let us solve them. If SSC can prove that where no TDS made but party had filed return, okay, I have already discussed this. Okay. Right. In NBFC interest payment, EMI is deducted. How TDS is to be deducted and paid the payment is direct. Sir, only on interest portion. EMI portion, entire amount is not liable for deduction. We need to obtain statement from them. Only on interest portion, TDS is required to be deducted. Next, sir, if total turnover less than 1 crore and SSC went for tax audit offering income less than 6 or 8%, whether TDS provisions were applicable? No. Sir, I have already clarified you with an example that only when turnover exceeds 1 crore and SSC have come for tax audit, then only the TDS provisions will be applicable. Okay. Next, 194C, up to 1 lakh no TDS. Yes, each payment 30,000, aggregate 1 lakh has to be considered. Okay. Next, if TDS to be deducted, reimbursement of expenses, GST component. Sir, GST component is not liable for TDS deduction. So you can exclude TDS component and you can make TDS deduction. Okay. Next, if wrong TDS has been deducted and deductee has not shown that income, what is the remedy if deductor does not revise? There is no remedy if deductor does not revise. If wrong deductee details were given, the only option available is to file TDS revised return. There is no other option here. Okay. Next, in case of payment of freight to customs house agent, which is in foreign currency on import of goods, whether TDS is required to be deducted? Yes, customs house agent will be covered as 194C contract payments, because we are not going to pay him only commission. For all the services provided by him, we are going to make the payment. So it shall be covered in 194C. When it exceeds 30,000 payment, then you are going to deduct TDS. Okay. Next, whether for reimbursement TDS is applicable? Yes, reimbursement of expenses were also liable to TDS. Sir, many transport companies are just arranging fleet and does not own any vehicle by itself. They are giving declaration for non-deduction under in 15J. Whether declaration is correct? Sir, what the thing I have specified you is in form 194C. Sir, in section 194C, I have already given you that if they have given declaration in form 15J from transporter, it is sufficient on part of the deductor. We do not know whether he has 10 vehicles or more. Based on his declaration only, we are coming to this conclusion. Whether such declaration is correct, we cannot go in depth. Whether we can verify whether he has more than 10 vehicles or less than 10 vehicles, we cannot verify it. We have to go just based on the declaration. Okay. Next, I am supplying to the LIC, whether TDS is applicable. Sir, one thing I am going to conclude here is, if you are going to provide catering services to LIC, TDS has to be deducted by LIC upon payment to you. So catering services were covered in 194C. They are liable to deduct TDS. Sir, which rate to be considered for exports? Whether we should consider insurance copy rate or invoice date? I think you are asking regarding conversion rate or TDS rate. It was not clear. So if it was a conversion rate, SBI rate shall be opted. So TDS rate, it depends upon the expenditure nature. Next, sir, if every year I contribute 10 lakhs as LIC, claim ATC 1.5 lakhs, but 1010D all maturity amount is exempt. Yes, sir, the thing to be remembered is, even I have not specified you the limit of 1 lakh 50. I have specified you the limit of 10%, 20%, 15% of sum assured. Above such sum only it is taxable. Below such sum assured, if we are going to contribute every year, upon maturity it is exempt under 1010D. 1.5 lakhs limit is not the criteria here. Okay. Next, when advertising agency doing work of designing logo as part of advertising contract, which section is applicable? 194C is only applicable, not 194J. Next, how will they deduct TDS on kind? They will collect from the person who has won it. If I am going to win a air conditioner or washing machine in a contest, which value is 1 lakh, they will give me washing machine and AC, and they are going to collect 30,000 from me. In case TDS to be deducted in kind, they accept the money from the person who is going to win it. If I pay 30,000 and take 1 lakh of gift, or else the context who is going to conduct, they can bear 30,000 on their own, or else generally they will collect from us and pay it in kind. So in case of kind, on value we need to deduct the TDS. Okay. Next, sir, if LIC maturity amount exceeds 1 lakh, is TDS applicable even though the sum assured is below the specified limit of 20-15%? Yes, even though, sir, 1010D exemption, once again I am going to repeat you that 1010D exemption, there is no concept of TDS. Other than 1010D exemption, if it exceeds 1 lakh, then TDS at the rate 194DA has to be deducted. Next, any GTA agents are not allowing vehicles in there, simply they arrange vehicles from outside and provide declaration. If we deduct TDS, more than 10 vehicles provided. Sir, if you deduct TDS, it's the best option. If you should not deduct TDS, we need to obtain declaration in Form 15J. It is only the basis available. We cannot go in depth more than that. Okay. Next, 194IA, agricultural land means both rural and urban. Yes, both rural and urban. In agricultural land, if it exceeds 50 lakhs, TDS need not be deducted. Okay. Next, in case TAN number is obtained by individual, whether TDS is compulsory deducted. So TAN is not the criteria. 194 HIJAC, tax audit is only the criteria. Next, TDS under section 194 on property exceeds 50 lakhs. For each co-owner or aggregate? No, each aggregate 50 lakhs. Here property has been specified, not owner. If there are two owners of the property and consideration payable is 60 lakhs, each owner 30 lakhs, whether TDS is required to be deducted? Yes. In 194IA, focus is on property, whereas in 194I, focus is on rent paid to each co-owner. So 194I, limit of rent is for each co-owner, but 194IA, each property has to be considered there. Okay. Next, TDS under section 194 on property exceeding. Okay, completed. Sir, if individual assessment 1920 is not tax audit, then no TDS provisions for current year. Yes, for individual, if in last year he is not liable for tax audit, current year TDS provisions need not be attracted. Okay. Even though current year he is tax audit, last year he is not a tax audit SC. In current year need not make, but next year he need to comply with TDS provisions. Okay. Next, sir, if what the expenditure is both personal and business purpose, whether it comes under 194M or 194C, we need to divide how much under 194M and how much under 194C. We need to divide and apply it. Next, sir, exemption under 194N, is there any exemption given to fishermen who bought fishes from their fishermen? If they were registered under APMC, Agricultural Producing Marketing Committee, then it was covered in exception, or else TDS will be deducted. Sir, can cooperative society is eligible to submit 15G and 15H to banks for non-deduction? No. Sir, this generally 15G, 15H, if you see the intention of 15G, 15H, income has not exceeded basic exemption. For cooperative society, there is no concept of basic exemption. Whenever income exceeds 10,000, 10% TDS will be deducted. There is no concept of whenever for cooperative society, first 10,000 income, 10% tax, 10,000 to 20,000, 20% tax, above 20,000, 30% tax. That means society is always liable to pay tax. Even though they claim deduction under 80P also, on payment to societies, TDS will get deducted. 15G, 15H is not applicable. The thing they are required to do is, if they claim deduction under 80P, they have to obtain lower deduction certificate. They may obtain lower deduction certificate from assessing officer. Based on that, you can come for lower deduction or non-deduction. So, trust is having exemption certificate. Bank is deducting TDS even exemption certificate. What to do? You go and argue with bank. You have to argue with bank and specify them that we have lower deduction certificate. Such certificate number should be updated in the bank portal. Then only they will not deduct TDS, or else they will deduct TDS. You have to file your return of income and claim it as refund. Next, when deductees submit 15G, 15H to deductor during financial year or at the end of the year. Sir, each month, next month 7th itself, we need to submit 15G, 15H online. Each month, even March month also, by April 7th, it needs to be deposited. Can SSC deduct TDS on audit fee provision when he does not know who will do audit after 6 months from the end of the year? Okay, sir, audit fee provision, we need to know who is the deductee. If you do not know who is the auditor, then the provision on audit fee is not allowable at all. If you consider ICDS 10, present obligation out of past event, provision can be created. You are creating provision for future obligation. It is not liable for TDS. I mean, it was not liable for expenditure itself. You can claim provisions as expense for an obligation arising now out of past event. But you are going to create provision for future events. It is not eligible for expenditure based on ICDS 10. Okay. Next. Whether TDS to be deducted on GST portion? No. For any section, it may be 194H, I, J, whatever may be. On GST portion, there is no concept of TDS. Okay. Next. Sir, form 15G and 15H available for NRI? No. Sir, tomorrow I will discuss regarding non-resident taxation provisions. So, for them, deduction shall be made under 195. For them, there is no concept of submitting form 15G and H. I will discuss you it in next session. And next thing is, landowner can't offer capital gains till flats sold by him. What is the position of TDS on monetary consideration? Sir, actually, even though TDS is reflected in 26AS, if you are going to offer such income in next year, you can defer the TDS. So, in this case, if monetary consideration promoter has deducted TDS under 194 IC, then the thing you are required to do is you defer such TDS credit to next year. Next year you claim it. Okay, right. Next, sir, TAN can cancel if not required. Process. You need to submit your jurisdiction officer and surrender your TAN number. Next, sir, is 194 IC applicable for TDR purchased by builder? No. Only on monetary consideration paid under joint development agreement it is applicable. Next, how to calculate TDS on salaried employees? So, sir, watch video from the beginning. I have explained completely regarding salaried employees. You can view it there. If interest is paid to NBFC, how TDS is required to be deducted on interest component? Sir, I have already specified this. Only on interest component only TDS is required to be deducted. What rate on non-refundable security deposit? 10%. If it is a rent which is a non-refundable deposits, advance rent, TDS will get attracted. On advance rent also TDS will get attracted. Not at the time of set off. If you refer, I have specified you time of TDS provisions, time limit for deducting TDS. If you are going to make advance rent, at the time of payment itself is earlier here. Whichever is earlier, we are required to deduct TDS, and hence on advance rent also TDS will get attracted. Next, Form 15J is required to be uploaded. No need. Only Form 15G and H to be uploaded. J need not be required to be uploaded. We have to retain with ourselves. Sir, 80 TTA deduction 10,000 while 194A limit is 40,000. Yes. Why like that means it is a policy of the government. We cannot object this. We need to follow. 80 TTA deduction is only 10,000 whereas 194A deduction is 40,000. Sir, you cannot compare those two sections because 80 TTA is on savings interest, whereas 194A is not on savings interest, it is on FD interest and RD interest. You cannot compare 80 TTA and 194A, both cannot be compared, both were different from each other. TTA is on savings interest, 194A is not on savings interest, it is on RD and FD interest, time deposit interest only. Okay. Whether IT department can collect our bank account details automatically every year and compare with bank accounts on scrutiny cases. Sir, it is at your discretion whether you provide details to the department. You can provide challans to them. You can provide bank statement to them. Directly, how they collect TDS directly from us. So it depends upon the case. Based on complete facts, we have to give suggestion in that case. And okay, so by this all the queries that were raised as of now has been solved. Now let me enter into the provisions of TCS and then we shall conclude our session. One more thing here is rent hardship allowance to slum dwellers. So nothing, 2,40,000 limit is common for one and all. Next, please explain what is Form 26QB. I have already specified you that here. I have already explained. You can go back to the video and watch again. Form 26QB is regarding transfer of immobile property greater than 50 lakhs. Whether TDS credit can be deferred to next year. Yes, it can be deferred to next year. Okay. Sir, I maintain books of accounts on cash basis. Whether TDS credit can be deferred. Yes, you can credit TDS to next year also. Charitable trust, whether they can apply for 15G and H. No. They have to apply for lower deduction certificate. Charitable trust cannot submit 15G and H. Okay. So all the queries that were raised were solved. Now let me enter into the concept of TCS and close the issues. So coming to the issues of TCS, TCS will get attracted on incomes. Generally on expenses we deduct TDS, and here on incomes we collect TCS. On expenses we deduct TDS and on incomes we collect TCS. Both were different from each other. If you consider here TCS, tax collection at source, any alcoholic liquor seller, tendu leaves, that means BD leaves, and any timber obtained under forest lease, scrap and minerals being core, lignite or iron ore dealer. Sir, these are the sellers. If a seller being alcoholic liquor for human consumption sells this product to a buyer who is a trader but not the consumer. Sir, in this case, let me take an example so that you will get this provision very clear. Definition of the term buyer. So on expenses generally they deduct TDS and on incomes they collect TCS. How much TCS shall be collected? When this TCS shall be collected? Sir, buyer should be a buyer in retail sale. They does not include them. That means seller business purpose, buyer also for business purpose, who is a trader, who purchases them and sells back. Who purchases and sells back. Then such persons only. All the liquor shops practically sell to consumers. We need not collect TCS from the people who purchase such liquor. But these liquor shops, if they are going to make any purchase from the government, then TCS at the rate 1% will be collected to them. Okay. So TCS will get attracted only when seller in the course of business sells this product and buyer also purchases them as a stock in trade. Seller stock in trade, for buyer also if this is a stock in trade, upon purchase of these items, the TCS rate which was specified here shall get attracted is the conclusion. And second question regarding TCS is a very important aspect, motor car. Whether motor car purchase is liable for TCS. Sir, in case of motor car, seller must be a tax audit SC, buyer must be a consumer. If for buyer this motor car is a stock in trade, then TCS will not get attracted. Sir, not only motor car, for all the motor vehicles I am going to discuss you that TCS at the rate 1% has been specified. If the value of the motor car exceeds 10 lakhs, you may make the payment in cash, you may make the payment in check, whatever may be the mode of payment. If the value of the motor vehicle exceeds 10 lakhs, then TCS at the rate 1% will get automatically attracted. So whether it is at retail level or by manufacturer to dealers. Sir, manufacturer to dealers, no TCS. Last concept of alcoholic liquor is different. Here manufacturer to dealers only TCS. But coming to motor vehicle sale, dealer to customer will only attract TCS. Manufacturer to dealer will not attract TCS. Here the thing that was specified here is, if I buy a motor vehicle from a showroom, the motor vehicle value exceeds 10 lakhs, then they collect from me TCS at the rate 1% and pay it to the government. It will get reflected in 26 AS, and at the time of payment of my taxes, I can claim such a TCS as credit. Same as TDS, TCS can also be taken as credit. And in case of luxury cars, sir, here luxury car, normal car is not the criteria, petrol, diesel, whatever may be. If car value exceeds 10 lakhs, TDS has to be deducted. But if purchase is made by government department, then there is no TCS. TCS will get attracted only if buyer is a consumer for personal use. Okay. Next, personal use or business use also. If a partnership firm purchases a motor vehicle or individual purchases a motor vehicle for business use, since he is a retail consumer, he is purchasing not for reselling purpose, and hence TCS at the rate 1% will get deducted. The thing to be noted here is, if from any motor vehicle dealer, if we are going to purchase a motor vehicle above 10 lakhs, and whether we may use it for our business or for our personal use, above 10 lakhs motor vehicle will get attracted TCS. Okay. Next, TCS at the rate 1% will get attracted. Whether it is applicable for individual, yes, for all the sellers. If motor vehicle is stock in trade and he is a tax audit SC, in such a case, if buyer is a customer, consumer, but not a dealer of motor vehicles, if buyer is a consumer, then TCS at the rate 1% will get collected. Whether the payment may be made in cash or check, whatever may be the mode of payment, TCS will get attracted is the conclusion. So TCS collection has to be collected during the month and remitted during 7th of the next month, and after that filing TCS return, and everything is same as TDS provisions only. The thing to be remembered here from our client point of view is TCS on sale of motor vehicle. If you have any clients dealing with motor vehicles, if they sell a motor vehicle in excess of 10 lakhs, then TCS at the rate 1% will get collected is the conclusion. So by this we have completed our theoretical discussion. Now coming to the queries that were raised here. Sir, for NBFC, one is asking practical procedure. As EMI including interest is recovered by NBFC, how can we retain TDS portion? Sir, you need to pay TDS and then inform to NBFC that we have remitted to TDS. You can check it in your 26 AS. Then NBFC will return back such TDS amount to us. Initially they recover full amount. We cannot retain TDS portion. They recover full amount. We have to pay and produce them the challan and obtain a separate check from them, or next payment has to be reduced, whatever may be. First we need to pay and then claim back from the NBFC. Okay. Next. 194A in joint holder, who pays TDS? Sir, both PAN if you submit, they deduct proportionately. If you submit only one PAN, based on one PAN only they will deduct. It is at your discretion whether you disclose or not. Contractor supplying electrician to a company, 194C or 194J. 194C has to be attracted, not 194J. They do not come under professionals definition. Notified professions only 194J will get attracted. Landowner can't offer capital gains till flats sold by him. Sir, I have already specified you here that you defer TDS credit. You cannot claim refund. You defer TDS credit in joint development agreement. If on monetary consideration 194 IC TDS has been deducted, you defer TDS credit to next year. Whenever you are offering capital gain, up to that year you can defer the TDS credit. I have already specified this. Whether TCS on jewelry? No, there is no TCS on jewelry. Only on motor vehicles now. Now there is no provision on TCS of jewelry. Sir, director salary 10 lakhs, same company paid 30 lakhs as interest. Sir, I have already clarified this provision. I have already asked this question earlier. Only on salary payment only we are required to deduct TDS. You may consider other incomes also, but it is not mandatory. Next. Sir, I own one car. I am not a dealer in car. I want to sell my second-hand car for 20 lakhs. Whether I need to collect TCS? Sir, one thing I have specified here is, seller being tax audit SSE is only required to collect TCS upon sale of the motor car. So if you are liable for tax audit, then you need to collect TCS at the rate 1%. Okay. TDS on port charges. Port charges 194C will get attracted. Next, when a vehicle is purchased for personal use, can we claim TCS in ITR as prepaid tax? Yes, we can claim it as TCS credit can be claimed even though purchased for personal use. TDS on payment of utility bills. Sir, I have already specified in section 196 that any payment to government is not liable for TDS, and hence on current bills we need not deduct TDS. Is there any mechanism with IT department to know about undeclared bank accounts in ITR? No sir, this is a separate procedure you are going to ask. This is not a discussion to be made in public. Actually, is there any mechanism with IT department to know? You need to approach them. So this is not any public discussion to be made here. What topic will you cover in class 15 international taxation? Wait for 15th day. There you will know arms enterprise provisions. We are going to have a discussion there. Technical services TDS 194C or 194J. 194J. Fees for technical services will be covered in 194J. Next, 194IA applicable if land is purchased from municipal corporation auction. Yes, sir, if you are going to make payment to any person, if you make payment to government, then there is no TDS. If you make payment to local authority, TDS has to be deducted because they have PAN. Government do not have PAN. Local authority will have PAN. Based on that, we can deduct TDS. Okay. Next. Hospital providing space to doctor for his option, for his OPD. 194C or 194I. Sir, if space has been let out, it comes under rent provision 194H. If space along with facilities were also given by the hospital, then it comes under 194C. So based upon facts, we need to conclude them. Next, TDS unclaimed in 26 days of last year, revised return not filed, what to do? You try for rectification under 154 so that unclaimed TDS, you have to offer it as income now, then you can claim if refund exists. After disclosing it that income also, if still exists, you can claim refund. You try for rectification request under 154. Sir, for banks shall we show 12A certificate? No, 12A certificate is not sufficient. It's better to obtain lower deduction certificate also. Next, sir, if payment of 25,000 made in cash, whether 40A3 PGBCL. So what is the abbreviation regarding this is the criteria. Okay, let me take one thing. If you make generally payment in cash, 40A3 will get attracted. There are certain exceptions in 40A3. If it was covered in that, then we need not deduct TDS. Then we not attract 40A3 disallowance. Is there TDS in real estate business? Yes. When any assessee who is liable for tax audit, 194 HIJAC will get attracted. Next, how to differentiate professional fees or technical fees? Okay, sir, professional fees and technical fees both were liable to TDS under 194J only. How to differentiate means, any engineering services were being provided, we have to classify it as a technical service. For all other cases, we have to treat it as a professional service. Once you go through the definition regarding the technical services, based on that, we need to make the classification. Next, in case TDS deducted on audit fee provision, CA GST bill after signing audit report next year, he is required to show that income of last year on accrual basis or on current year. Sir, we can show it on current year only. Even though client, if he had deducted TDS by 31st March, then we have to show on accrual basis. If he has not deducted, we can show it in next year. TCS calculation on vehicle invoice cost or road cost. Okay, right. So TCS is on the on-road price. That means on taxes, road tax, insurance fee, this need not be included. Without included them, if the value of the motor vehicle without taxes exceeds 10 lakhs, then TCS is required to be deducted. Next, on property tax payment, TDS is required to local body, not required. On municipal taxes, TDS need not be made again. Next, 27 EQ, this was regarding TCS, just what I have discussed now. And there are certain non-resident TDS provisions. Tomorrow we shall have a discussion regarding such NRA taxation. In case of scrap, is TCS required to be deducted on GST amount? No. On GST amount, there is no provision of TDS and there is no provision of TCS also. Both were not required. Okay. So by this, the queries that were raised here were solved. Some were asking regarding the material. Sir, you please contact the WhatsApp number specified in the description box, so that it will be, we shall share the publications. Next, TCS can collect on GST also or not. No need to collect TCS on GST amount. Without including GST amount only, TCS is required to be collected. Okay. So by this, all the queries that were raised here were solved. Tomorrow, very important discussion we are going to have on non-resident taxation. So by this, we are going to conclude our today's session. So thank you very much.